So today, we are diving into a really compelling explainer based on a fascinating 17-year financial journey tracked by Nolan Finance. And look, this is a profound look at the difference between looking rich and actually being rich. What we're about to cover today, it is going to fundamentally change how you view every single dollar you spend. And honestly, more importantly, every dollar you don't. Okay, I want you to picture this. Drop yourself right into this scene. You're 24 years old, you're standing on a car dealership showroom floor, and you're not there to buy. You're just looking. The salesman glances down at your shoes. You're wearing these $34 white New Balance sneakers, and the soles are literally starting to peel off. The salesman, he immediately goes right back to his phone. Doesn't walk over, doesn't nod, doesn't even offer you a bottle of water. You stand there for 11 minutes, entirely ignored. But here is the secret. You have the cash. You are completely ready to pay in full. But he chose to help the guy in the polo shirt instead. And you just file that moment away, not with anger, but with data. You know, it's basically the perfect introduction to our core contrast today, the massive, massive gap between appearances and reality. So that brings us to level 1 of your net worth journey, from $0 to $8,000. You're 24, you're pulling in $19.40 an hour at a logistics company, you're driving a 2009 Honda Civic, it's got 161,000 miles on it, and a check engine light that you basically just have to ignore. After rent, utilities, and your $287 credit card minimum, you have exactly $310 left to survive on for the next 11 days. You are keeping your head above water, sure, but just barely. And the thing about this phase is that it exposes this really harsh mechanical disadvantage. It's the invisible poverty tax. Because nobody tells you that being poor is structurally so expensive. Because your car isn't reliable, you buy orange juice at the closer, more expensive store. Bam, that's an extra $19 a year. Because you can't hit a $1,500 minimum balance, your bank hits you with a $12 monthly fee. That is $144 a year just to access your own money. And because your credit score is sitting at 591, your landlord slaps you with a $200 extra security deposit. Every single system extracts slightly more from you simply because you have slightly less. But right here, at the absolute bottom, this incredibly empowering first step happens. You start automatically moving just $40 a week into a high-yield savings account. And you stick with it. Eventually, that discipline builds right into level 2. Your net worth crosses from $8,000 to $35,000. Externally, literally nothing has changed. Your coworkers are still borrowing lunch money, your manager is still scheduling you for just under 40 hours so they don't have to pay you benefits. But internally, a quiet shift happens. You finally stop making decisions out of desperation, and you start making them from calculation. You open up a tax-free Roth IRA. You furiously pay off that $4,300 credit card balance. Now, this dynamic perfectly illustrates the social cost of building wealth. Your friends are planning this huge $1,800 weekend trip to Vegas. You go for just one night and you drive home early before anyone even wakes up, totally skipping the massive bill. And yeah, people might think you're just being cheap or boring or antisocial, but you let them think that. Because on a random Tuesday, while you're eating a slightly sad $6 burrito, you check your phone and you see your net worth just crossed $22,000. You are secretly crushing your debt and building a rock-solid foundation. And that momentum propels you straight into level 3, $35,000 to $120,000. You score a new job making $67,000 a year. You start throwing 10% into your 401k, even though your manager, who by the way drives a heavily leased Audi, tells you that your savings rate is a little bit aggressive. At this level, the gap between what you look like to the rest of the world and what you are actually building in the background becomes intensely clear. Think about it like this. Take the guy at the networking event with the BMW 5 Series. He's making $110,000 a year, sure, but he is sitting on $31,000 in credit card debt and barely has $4,800 in savings. Or what about your coworker, Christine? She's leasing a brand new Lexus, she's taking trips to Cabo, she has this absolutely perfect Instagram grid, and exactly $1,200 to her name. Now compare that to you. You parked your rusty 2009 Civic right next to that BMW, but you have $74,000 invested, and it's growing by $7,200 a year all on its own. The appearance of wealth and the actual accumulation of wealth are two completely different games. The data actually reveals exactly what the average American household spends just to look like they're doing well. Between clothing, dining out, entertainment, tobacco, and alcohol, it adds up to a staggering $9,128 every single year. But here is the mind-blowing part. If that $9,128 had been invested in a diversified index fund averaging 9.8% annually over 20 years instead, it turns into $562,000, $500,000, generated simply by not performing a level of wealth that you don't actually have yet. So by age 31, you're earning $94,000 and your net worth climbs between $120,000 and $400,000. Here, you officially enter a completely new tier of financial psychology. You discover what the source material calls a true superpower. It's defined as the gift of invisibility. Remember that invisible poverty tax from level 1? Well, when looking poor is an actual choice, it totally protects your money. Because you don't look super wealthy, nobody is asking you to split a $900 bottle service. Nobody expects you to fund their brand new business idea or automatically pick up the check at dinner. You are completely unremarkable to the external world, and that allows your money to work quietly in the background without any of that social interference or lifestyle creep. And here is where we see the sheer magic of compounding math. When your investment account crosses $150,000, something mathematical just clicks. Assuming a 9.8% average return, that 150 grand doubles to $300,000 in roughly 7.4 years. And that is without you adding another single cent. You are building a system that generates money whether you actually show up to work or not. And because you have that massive safety net under you, when your company offers you a promotion, you have the leverage to confidently negotiate a $116,000 salary simply because you know you could literally walk away and be totally fine. Which brings us to level 5. You're 38 years old now. Your net worth has scaled from $400,000 all the way up to $1.2 million. At this stage, the entire structure of your money fundamentally shifts. The market is now doing way more heavy lifting than your actual day job. This is such a powerful realization. Compound interest doesn't care what you drive. With $400,000 invested, a 9.8% return generates over $39,000 in a single year. Think about that. Your passive returns now exceed the entire salary you were making working 40 hours a week back when you were 24. Just let that sink in for a second. The gap between these two games has absolutely reached its peak now. Take the commercial real estate guy. He's driving a $128,000 Range Rover, he's wearing a Rolex, he talks about his portfolio constantly. But once you factor in his massive lifestyle debt, his actual net worth is just $94,000. He looks exactly like a millionaire, but he isn't. And then there's you. You're cruising in a used Toyota Camry you bought for $18,700 in cash. You are quietly investing in real estate syndications, which are essentially just group investments for larger properties. To the outside world, you look like nobody, but you actually are a millionaire. Let's break down the long-term math here because it is wild. This table shows what happens to the average American making $80,000 a year. But instead of spending $3,900 a month to perform wealth, on luxury apartments, cars, and clothes, they live on $2,800 a month and just invest the rest. The progression is staggering. By year 15, you are over $1 million. By year 20, you are sitting at nearly $2 million. And that's without founding a tech startup, without gambling on crypto, just by flat out refusing to play the visible game. So fast forward a little bit, you are now 41 years old. Your net worth sits at $1.4 million. And this brings our entire narrative completely full circle, right back to exactly where we started. You walk back into a car dealership. The exact same type of salesman makes the exact same visual calculation of you and totally takes his time coming over. But this time, you are buying a modest 2021 RAV4 hybrid, and you tell him you're paying in cash. The energy in the room shifts instantly. You completely removed the dealer's financing leverage. You already know their actual invoice cost and exactly what they pay just to keep that car sitting on the lot. You walk out paying $4,200 under the sticker price. And as you drive away, you think back to that 24-year-old kid in the peeling sneakers, and you realize the calm, absolute quiet victory of winning the long game. If you remember nothing else from this, remember this quote. Every time you swipe a card to match someone else's lifestyle, you are trading your future net worth for their current perception of you. The absolute most liberating truth from all of this data is that nobody's actually tracking your performance of poverty. That guy in the BMW, he forgot about you the second you walked away. Your friends are not obsessing over your finances. They are literally only focused on themselves. You are the only one paying the price for the illusion. We spend so much of our lives asking, how do I make more money? But based on everything we've just unpacked in this explainer, I really want to leave you with a much harder perspective-shifting question to consider today. How do I stop performing wealth that I haven't built yet? Because I promise you, the moment you choose the invisible game, time stops being your enemy, and it truly becomes your greatest compounding asset.